Jeff, how's it going, man?
It's good, Rich. Things are obviously a little different these days, not just in Nosara, but everywhere. You and I are usually sitting in a room together, but I like the new format, and I'm happy to be back.
Thanks for hopping on the virtual Nosara podcast. So, I guess first question is, how is this affecting your business? You're a businessman. You have a ton going on all the time. So, how's this whole thing treating you?
Well, I mean, um, yeah, it's pretty simple. Most businesses are closed, and I would say, I would say it's pretty unexpected. I mean, even for those who maybe understood that we had a really good run, a 12-year kind of economic expansion, and at some point there would be a recession or something, posed for to make for a challenging business environment. I don't think anyone quite expected the kind of extreme nature of a pandemic, but here we are, and there's and it's just life happens, and this is something that everybody's dealing with, not just here but like globally. And just as quick as it came, it'll go, and the key is what to do during and while. So
So what that's my next question, actually. So what are you doing these days? How are you staying sane, and what are you spending your time on?
Yeah, I mean, if you had asked me about 2 months ago, like what was like the one thing that I wish I had a stop time button, so I could just press the button and stop time and basically catch up on all the list of to-dos, have more time with like my family. There just was never enough time in the day for anything, and for any business either. And it felt like most people in Nosara were kind of in that same category. Like, my God, business is great, but I have no time. And what people would have given to have a little extra time. Well, guess what? Now all you have is time. I would say, the first thing is a little bit of personal time and family time has been nice. But at the same time, there's still a huge list of to-dos. I have work that still needs to get done that I just never had any time for it. At the hotel, there's plenty of maintenance and upgrades and things that I had on a list to fix or change or just complete, for almost going back almost 2 years. And at the same time, it's good to keep people employed, and it's good to keep people moving, albeit at safe distances and with way higher levels of hygiene and kind of, keeping tabs on like the real risk, the virus.
I get you. Is Gilded closed and the restaurant closed?
The hotel is closed. The restaurant is closed. And, basically the surf club is closed. The beaches are closed. What we do still have open is the bike shop. I could say that, the bike shop, we are limiting how many people are allowed in the shop at any given time. We're doing basically home deliveries of rentals and bikes for sale. But I guess without a lot to do, except for maybe, doing some at-home exercising, biking seems to be where, the last thing, the final frontier of keeping yourself sane and getting out of the house. And
so tell us the name real quick while we're on the subject. Tell people the name and any information about it.
So Nosara MTB is the bike shop we have over here at the kind of the Gila de Guana complex in North Guiones, and the shop is open and fully stocked. And for anyone that maybe want to get out and get some exercise and keep themselves mentally sane, biking is definitely a really popular choice right now.
That's cool.
Yeah, before this whole thing happened, we built about 12 kilometers of trails out on a couple fincas in Santa Marta. And I think at some point in the next couple of weeks, obviously pending, like announcements from the health ministry and, taking into consideration being safe with the virus, we want to do like some sort of, soft open on some of the trails and invite the community out. Right now, the Ministerio of Salud says that riding bikes in groups is not recommended, and they recommend a maximum group size of 2 people.
Okay.
So if you want the bike, like keep your space. But I mean, the other thing that's kind of crazy is there's nobody in Nosara right now. Well, I mean, there's people here. I think for last week with the restrictions we had, the vehicular restrictions for Semana Santa, everybody just kind of went in their houses, and it was really quiet. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Besides, my wish of having a stop time button, there's a couple other Nosara wishes that I've had over the years. And one of those is to be able to kind of experience this place, maybe how some of, people were able to do in the 70s and 80s and maybe even the 90s. Now, the beaches are closed, but in terms of nature and silence and no dust, this is 2020, and this may be the last chance that some people have to enjoy Nosara as it might have actually been in the 70s and 80s. If you ever had a chance to take a walk or take a hike or just go sit on like a mountain somewhere and watch the sunset, it's probably not all that different in terms of number of people here. And I don't know, things will get moving at some point. This will come and go. But what's interesting is for the people that are here now, like take advantage, enjoy this place, go outside at night and listen to the sounds. There's things that you may notice right now that you've never noticed. And, there are definitely a couple of silver linings. There's nobody in Nosara, and there's like deer in the street. There's animals everywhere.
Yeah.
We got our first rain, 2 nights ago.
Yep.
Take advantage of it, because at some point this place is full and busy and we're all working way too hard again. And, we may look back at this time and say, wow, I really could have taken more advantage of it.
So this pandemic was your time machine, essentially.
This is a time machine right now. Everybody has a time machine. Take advantage of it.
All right. So coming back to now, though, what I'm interested in some of your predictions and your outlook and kind of how you see this whole thing. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I think it's tough for anybody. I think basically what we're looking at here was you have this pandemic, this new virus, unknown, and everybody is trying to process predictions and computer models to figure out what's actually going to happen. It didn't seem like any government really had any sort of plan in place for this. And, as dangerous as the virus is, I think a lot of the initial estimations were kind of worst case scenarios that led to pretty extreme government reactions only because they had no other choice, right?
So you mean like the borders closing and all travel ceasing and whatnot?
Well, look, again, it's hard to say, I think that maybe borders closing for a little while. Look, Costa Rica's handled this, I think, extremely well. The country has very low new cases per day. The curve here is extraordinarily flat. They also have, like a guaranteed public health. Their public health care system here is a big part of what they offer to their citizens, and they did what they had to do to be safe. But again, you're looking at some of the initial estimates, let's say in the United States, of 2 to 4 million people dying from this. That's probably pretty extreme. I think that in the end, you probably have somewhere around like 60 to 100,000 people dying. It's a tragedy. It's a lot of death. There's 3 million people a year in the United States that normally, 3 million deaths and 3.9 million births. I think in the end, this is a bit of a blip if you're looking at this from a statistical standpoint. But right now it's very real and it's having like very real effects. And the question is like, how long does it take to pass? How long does government policy go from this kind of rather safe but sorry policy towards finding where this intersection of balance? Because again, the United States, what is it, like 20,000 deaths so far? You also have 17 million people unemployed in 3 weeks, which for every one employed person, that's probably about 2.5 people that don't have rent or food. So at what point does, there's gonna be some balance eventually, and hopefully, the governments have an easier job as this kind of winds down, as treatments are found, as vaccines are created. But I think government's going to have to start shifting towards, kind of the consequences of not having this plan and the execution of better safe than sorry. So we'll see how it goes. I know that we're getting inquiries for people to be booking vacations for June and July, but we have a lot of people booking for next season as well.
What's your thoughts on that, between all the cancellations and reschedules and postponements and whatnot?
I can tell you what I know. It's kind of hard to guess, but this is what I know. When they put the original emergency measures in place in Costa Rica, it originally went till April 12th, but when you looked at the airlines, they didn't start rescheduling flights to start until early May, with basically all airlines planning on being back in operation by May 15th. So
you think May 15th?
Well, this is what was on the books on the schedule, right? Coming from the airlines and coming from like the tourism institutes, right? So this is this is the information that was given. Now, when they extended it to April 30th, they didn't change any of that information. So as of now, you can actually go online and see, you can book flights coming into Costa Rica in May. Now, is it likely that that will stay the same? Probably not.
So you're not predicting May 15th planes are flying per se. You're just indicating what's on the books.
Yeah, I think maybe sometime, let's say June 1st, plus or minus 15 days, maybe airlines will be back up and running. But again, it's a total guess, right? I'm guessing.
They're like guesses, though. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Well, the only thing you can do is wait. And what do we have, right? So right now, and the way this whole thing seemed to have worked is everything changes so fast. So, in conversations with staff and associates and business relationships, the best advice I can give here is, every day right now seems like a week, every week seems like a month, and every month seems like a year. So it's really hard to understand like how things will be in 30 days from now, just because things every single day. So for now, it's a hurry up and wait and use your time machine to kind of do the things that you need to do. But yeah, I think it's a possibility that, there is some level of open borders and reactivation by June and July. And I could be totally wrong, but it doesn't seem out of the question.
Well, it's tough because a lot of businesses are getting to the point of the business has rent to pay, and then the landlord needs to collect the rents, and then the employees of the businesses need to get paid. And some people are living, week to week just by that paycheck, and the government's done some measures. So I'm interested in hearing that side. I'm interested in hearing your opinion on what the Costa Rican government's done and what businesses should be doing in general, from your opinion.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Costa Rican government has a long list of of actions they've taken, and it's too long to kind of go over in this podcast. But there's one or two things that I definitely want to mention. We'll get to that, in a little bit. I would say, speaking on behalf of business owners and two other business owners, this is something that has never really happened or been experienced. This is unlike any sort of recession that comes at the end of an economic cycle. This is entirely basically a function of human beings as biological entities putting themselves on pause, but all the systems in place that we operate in, those things weren't built to be on pause. And now people have to basically find ways to put those systems on pause. In the business cycle, you typically are collecting money with your left hand, you're paying out with your right hand. But right now that entire process is stopped. So, you may look to your left and see people that you want to collect money from, but they don't have it because there's no business going on right now. And same to the person to the right of you, they may look at you and expect you to pay them, but you have no business. So what does everybody do? Well, basically everybody either survives together or they die together. And I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about economics here. Everybody should be having conversations with their landlords, creditors, vendors, you name it. But the key here is for people to find some way to match what's going on with humans as like a biological existence, in terms of the systems that we operate in, and being able to renegotiate and put things on pause for the time being. That could be the difference between survival. And businesses need to survive. Like when things were booming here, there was definitely some sentiment, I think, at some points where businesses were, kind of looked at as the bad guys, and oh my God, they make so much money and it's so easy. But there's business cycles and everything. This is not the first, recession / depression. This is not the first economic blip, and it won't be the last one. There's economic cycles through everything, and people need to plan for the bad times, and they need to act appropriately during the good times. And I think, the one big lesson learned here is for people who haven't really, that are business owners that haven't taken too much time to study economic cycles and past recessions, this is a great chance to learn about it, permanently and for the future, and to understand that, 3 or 4 months ago in most business meetings that I had, we always talked about the kind of implied risk of a recession and how things would work and how you would look in a recession. Now it's hard to predict basically a recession where it goes to zero in revenues, borders closed and tourism being shut down. I think that's one of these these super extreme events that no one really could have modeled for or predicted. But here we are, and the key right now is cooperation and survival. Businesses are essential to the economy, and right now every business needs to work with each other to figure out ways that people can survive and that they can reopen when tourism comes back. If that's not possible, and if basically you're just looking at kind of the end of the road, people shouldn't feel bad about shutting businesses, and understanding that like businesses survive and businesses fail. I mean, most successful business owners aren't successful without having a couple of failures at first. And if you're in a moment of failure, it's okay to accept that moment of failure, to take care of yourself personally, to try to find some help and support, and understand that at some point you can go out and get a job. And if once you get a job, you can save some money and you can go back and you can open a new business and continue to be an entrepreneur and a business person. But you exist within these cycles, and to kind of, accept the reality and accept the fact that like there will be businesses that do not reopen from this, and yours may be one of them. It's okay. This is not your failure. This is just part of like the natural environment of the world that we live in.
It's interesting you say that, because when I moved here, we were deep in the last recession after the big crash. And it was just tough. It was tough making it through it. And I've always still kind of blamed myself for being caught in a position where that crash could even touch me. And then here, I've always wondered, is it going to be an earthquake or a tsunami or some sort of financial cataclysm? Of just what is it going to be? I've always wondered what it was going to be. And it turned out it was a pandemic. And I never guessed that one. I didn't see that one coming.
Well, here it is. I mean, look, it'll pass. That's the other thing, is viruses come and go. This one will probably be around for a little while, but this is temporary. And one thing I know is Nosara is for as popular as it's become, it's very small. There's limited rooms, there's limited resources here. It's not going to take much when you have places that have 400 room hotels and have like these giant, like capacity for tourism. It might take them years to recover. Whereas, Nosara is a place that's, loved. It gives people balance. You have people locked in, shoebox apartments that are just thinking about the day that the borders are open to get out. And it's not going to take much to kind of get Nosara going again. And then people have to understand that, do what you can now, but understand that like there is hope, and things will reopen, and things will go back to life as normal at some point in the future in terms of the economy. Economies always go in cycles, and if anything, this is the start of a new cycle. And the start of new economic cycles are where, let's say, some of the most creative and influential businesses start, based out of like the change in
Sure.
I would say, one thing that happened at the end of this business cycle in Nosara is, rising tide floats all boats. And I think there are a lot of people that had businesses that were, supporting themselves, but it was mainly because of the fact that Nosara had such kind of popularity that it was easy to survive as an entrepreneur and a business owner, even with the level of competition that was in town. I think this gives an opportunity for certain businesses to look at consolidating and looking at people that maybe were competitors and say like, look, when things get going again, like probably it's in everyone's best interest if, we consolidate here and we find ways that we can do things at lower overheads and still support more staff and still be able to do the amount of business that we did. But kind of try to really focus on the core elements of business ownership and operation, which is, what do I do that's best for the business that supports the staff? And I think consolidation is okay. I think people understanding that like they may not have businesses to reopen, but maybe they want to join others. This is all part of it. Be patient and be positive, and just understand like there was a really extreme reaction based off of not having any real data, having estimates of millions, if not tens of millions of deaths. And once people really have the real data and really understand this, humans are resilient, science is powerful, and people will figure this out. So just be patient and try not to make any rash decisions, because the rash decisions you make now based on short-term circumstances can have really negative long-term effects if you're not careful. One of the things that I definitely recommend to owners, and we can get back to, is The government basically made this announcement that you're legally allowed to pay people 25% of their salary and 25% of like the social expenses, including kaha and other things. What this does is this gives business owners an opportunity to still pay people something, still keep some level of income, for food and staples, but to make it so that businesses didn't have to pay out liquidation. So when you fire someone here in Costa Rica, you have to pay out a pretty heavy, basically liquidation. If someone's worked for you a long time, it can be up to 8 months of actual salary, and it's very expensive for the business. But the other thing is psychologically for an employee, when you fire
You
them,
lose hope.
you liquidate them, they may not manage their money well, and they also may lose hope about the future. They may lose hope about things going back to normal. They may lose hope about having a job in the future. And you don't know where that can drive people. A huge part of the challenge of this situation is psychological, right? People are all caught in this kind of psychological deer in headlight moment here. And for business owners to do whatever you can to not fire and liquidate everybody, it's more, you save money by putting people on reduced salaries and giving them hope for the future, even if it's for 6 months. A 25% salary or putting people on 25% salaries. What the government has done here is said, well, for businesses that can normally last maybe for 3 months, we've essentially now given you, 12 months, right? The government has allowed people to buy time and still pay people and give them hope for the future. And for any business owners that have employees, I'd say it's the best thing you can do right now. Keep on as many employees as possible at reduced wages. Keep people moving, keep people, stair-stepping forward to a reopen, stay positive and give people hope for the future, because Nosara is resilient, humans are resilient, and this is all going to come back. People just have to understand that it's going to take time and that they really have to avoid making rash decisions right now.
Yeah, it sounds like your overall theme is just don't freak out, don't make rash decisions, we'll get through it. Consolidate where you can, take a hit on the chin, but don't give up and keep going.
No, I mean, listen, there'll definitely be some things that change out of this, but in general, people wanting to enjoy themselves in a place like Nosara, I find it hard to believe that thesis has fundamentally changed. And based on, inquiries and phone calls and even the reactions when this first started happening, I don't know if you guys had a similar situation, but before they closed the borders, you did have a lot of people canceling reservations because they were afraid to fly or they're afraid of the virus. But what you also had was you had a mad rush of people trying to get here and rent houses for 3 to 6 months.
That's true.
When the borders closed, that all kind of went away, but it was really unbelievable, the level of activity of people who wanted to come here to spend their time here during this, that it more or less weren't able to do that because of the border closures. And those people have all been sitting in their apartments. Everybody's cooped up. Everybody's going through a level of psychological stress here that, it's no secret that the number one thing that people usually get when they visit Nosara is balance. And a lot of that balance is from stress of their other life, I find it hard to believe that, people coming here to balance their lives and experiencing what Nosara has to offer is going to fundamentally change. And yeah, maybe people be afraid to get on, airplanes for a while, and that's understandable. I mean,
or people here are scared of those people coming here.
They are, for sure. I mean, it's a very valid fear. And the only thing, that will change that is time. So
or a vaccine.
Yeah, or vaccines or treatments or just understanding real assumed risk. This is the other thing. The world has kind of gone away from understanding that there's assumed risk in everything. The world has kind of de-risked or been nerfed, especially in the United States and Canada. There's this idea that there's some assumption that there's no risk left and that if something bad happens to you, it's someone else's fault. But the reality is, in real life and in this existence that we have here, there's risk in everything. One of the leading causes of death in people under 50 years old in the United States is actually car accidents or work accidents. So, people still drive their cars with an assumption of risk, even though, whatever it is, 500,000 people a year have deaths from car accidents. That doesn't force people to work at home. At some point, people will understand that this is a risk and there are ways to mitigate the risk. But just like everything else, there's assumed risk in everything that you do in life, and how you measure that assumed risk versus the rest of what you have going on. This is the subconscious kind of decision-making process that people may not even realize that they make, but we do it every day. And right now what we have is this virus right in front of us, staring all of us. This is the other thing. Every single one of us, we're biological beings with flesh and tissue, and here's the one thing that I think maybe people also forget. There's nothing certain in life except for death and taxes, right? Like, we're all gonna die at some point. Like, we won't live forever, and this is part of life. Facing our own mortality and trying to balance the risk of our mortality versus living our lives. It's something we do on a daily basis with a lot of other stuff. It's just that this virus is so extreme and unknown that this kind of understanding, like, balance between risk and living life is something that kind of has really been put on the back burner. And it's just a matter of time before I think that comes back into a little bit more of a balanced perspective, which is, what are the risks, versus, how are people actually going to live their lives? I mean, the death count in the United States, I think, is somewhere around 20,000 right now. You have 17 million unemployed in 3 weeks. You can't substitute deaths for employment, and you can't prioritize economy over saving people's lives. But at some point there is an intersection, and there is some balance between saying, well, what happens if there's 50 million people that without jobs? Each one of those people is paying for a roof over someone else's head and probably food in the mouths of a couple children. You have kids out of school. Everyone's lives are on pause right now. At some point, they're going to have to measure. People are going to have to take a really good hard look at kind of measuring, the damage and the risk. When they finally understand, like, what this virus is, how it spreads, what the real mortality rate is, and find a way to get kind of balanced back into life. And God knows how long that'll take, but it will happen at some point in the future. And for right now, I would say we probably hit, I'd say maximum panic about 3 weeks ago, probably hit maximum fear maybe about 2 weeks ago. I think right now, most people are kind of in acceptance, and they're just holding things down, and everybody's in an acceptance phase and a let's just wait this out phase. But at some point, people are going to get to okay, we need to look forward phase. And I don't know if that's next week or next month or next year. But that's kind of where I am at right now, which is enjoying this time to do the things that I feel like I never had time for, trying to support the people around me, and trying to plan for the future. And it's tough to plan for the future with how many unknowns there are right now. But I think it's a good exercise for mental health for people to try to plan their future as much as possible. And understand, again, like this has come quickly, and it'll go quickly. Maybe not as quickly as it came, but at some point, this is gone.
I hope you're right about it goes quickly. I don't know if I agree with that. I just don't know.
Quickly, I say quickly is a relative term. This isn't gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's really an extreme. It really is an extreme. 30 days ago, I think most businesses in this area just couldn't handle the amount of clients and demand that they had. And now everything's closed. That's about as extreme a swing as things can possibly get. So for anyone that has some psychological distress and is confused, or understand you're not alone. It's everybody, and it's not just here; it's everywhere. I think there's definitely some silver linings for this. Like I kind of mentioned before, I think a lot of, let's say, businesses and investment around here had a bit of there was a bit of some bad and some connotations to successful business, and now everybody's looking to business to try to help pay to feed people and looking to the future. So I think a higher level of business appreciation and entrepreneurship, and and the real Nosara community understanding that when times are good, it's good for everyone. When times are bad, there are people stepping up and giving support, and these are the businesses. Businesses are the one that kind of make the economy move around. And I know there's a lot of people that are trying to raise donations, and it's difficult to raise donations right now. And this is the other thing I don't think people here realize. In the past, there are these other moments when something bad happened here, I think raising money or doing fundraisers, from places where things were normal, it was a pretty low hanging fruit and like a very rational thing to do. Unfortunately, right now, when people are trying to do fundraisers and make donations, what they have to understand is this is happening to everybody everywhere. This is a global situation. Um, this is an 8 billion person, like global experience. And no matter where anyone else is right now, they're pretty bad off as well. Like everybody is struggling everywhere. So this kind of opportunity that we've had in the past for fundraisers and donations, I think unfortunately for the time being, that's not a crutch we're going to be able to rely on. And what we're really going to need to be able, we're really going to need to focus on is who's here and who's supporting the community. And
I hope people do. I hope people, especially get to the food bank, because if people are fed, they'll panic less. And I really believe this. And I remember during the last really downtime, heavy crime spiked.
yeah,
When people lost a ton of construction jobs and that went away, crime got worse. So Nosara always seems to bond whenever we have a flood or a fire or a whatever earthquake. And I hope that people come together for that now and keep people fed. Like just keep food flowing and keep people calm and keep people hopeful. That's
yeah,
that's
and
my
fed,
that's
and
my
fed, and fed and supported.
wish.
There's one really positive thing that I think is going to come out of this. It's been something in the works, I guess, for a while. I was approached about joining and participating to form the Nosara Chamber of Commerce, and I'm really happy to announce that the Nosara Chamber of Commerce is formed and the inscription is imminent. It's been
What's the purpose of this Chamber of Commerce? Please explain.
Nosara Chamber of Commerce is basically like a government recognized institution whose existence is solely to support and help business in Nosara. It's something that's never existed here. It's something that businesses have never had a chance to have like a cohesive organization that they can participate in that then has a voice within the community, a presence within the community, and a presence within government at both like a local and a national level. So having an organization that's sole goal is to organize and support and be a voice for business, it's as important as it ever was here because businesses provide employment. People having employment provides them their own means to survive and to thrive. And for all the organizations that we've ever had, there's never been one that really has the best interests of business in mind. It's been a small part to some other organizations. And I think what we have now is we have a real opportunity for anyone with business or investment here to participate in an organized way so that businesses here are not, they have a voice, they have a support network, and they have a chance to really participate, at a higher level through an official organization. So I think there'll be some news coming out. Again, this is not something that I organized and I set up. I agree to be part of it. I'm excited for it to start.
Is it
And
agenda based in any way? Like, do you have to believe I'm
there's
on this side of this issue to be a part of it, or is it open
no,
for everybody?
there is no agenda whatsoever. It's for anyone that has a business, anyone that's an entrepreneur. It's for ticos. It's for foreigners. It's basically for anyone that has business. And there is no agenda and there is no politics to this. This is purely a function of businesses need support. Businesses provide employment. Employment provides food, shelter, and livelihoods. And I think it's pretty obvious that in Nosara, there's essentially there's probably more of an organized anti-business sentiment for, let's say, people that want to see this place as a solely residential or retirement community. And what it means is like the people that really actually support the locals and the people that are paying salaries. They've had a headwind for a long time, and to see businesses, that really contribute so much to this community and so much to the locals and so much to the economy, essentially be in a constant headwind and a constant battle against maybe people that just don't want to see business in this town. It's all well and good for people to have their opinions and to feel how they want. But what's been missing is any sort of cohesive organization that's basically solely dedicated towards businesses in this community. And I'm really happy to know that this is formed, and I'm pretty sure there'll be some invites and some information sent out at some point in the next couple weeks. And what better time is there to organize a Chamber of Commerce for Nosara than right now? Businesses are the ones that are still here. They're the ones that are going to try to reopen. Businesses will be the ones that lead Nosara when this new economic cycle starts. And hopefully, tourism and the economy will get back to a point, but it's businesses and business leaders that are going to get it there. And this is a great chance for everybody to organize, to consolidate, to help each other, to cooperate, to find cooperative ways of competing when things get moving again, to organize to support their employees and the people that need it most and most vulnerable right now.
Yeah, maybe the timing's perfect for that. I just thought as I'm listening to you explain this, maybe the timing's perfect for that, and some of the consolidation of the consolidation type moments that you discussed earlier.
It's exciting, and again, I think when everything turns off and people have time, this is the kind of stuff that comes out of it, right? I mean, who knows? There could be a lot of positive that comes out of this in somehow, some way. I'm not sure what it is all just yet, but I hope it happens. Yeah, I mean, look, I know it's tough for everybody, and this will come to an end. Everybody needs to stay positive and focused, and use your time wisely. If you need help, ask for help. Don't be afraid to start over. Understand that this is not the last business cycle that people will experience in their lives, and try to really focus on making long-term decisions on your short-term circumstances. Again, don't make bad decisions based on short-term circumstances that will really hurt in the long run. Find a way to survive and find a way to get through. Do your best to give your employees and anyone around you hope for the future. Nosara is a community that depends on itself and on each other. And sometimes we go, when there was floods or these problems, we had a lot of outside support, but everybody everywhere is suffering. So the only support we really have right now is our internal support. So whoever's here, we're here, support each other, take care of each other, and understand this will all pass. And just looking forward to, I'm looking forward to hopefully the next time we chat, to kind of measure the differences, because as of right now, looking back 30 days ago, is about the most extreme change in, let's say, business and economy that's probably ever happened in industrialized civilization.
It's been strange, and I appreciate you coming on here to talk about it. Thank you for coming on, sharing your opinions and ideas, and a lot of hope. It's interesting to hear it's just always interesting to talk to you, but it was interesting to talk with you about this. But in the meantime, do you have any message or thoughts you'd like to share with the populace while we have this platform?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said a lot on the prior part of this podcast here, but I mean, I'd say the best thing is take advantage of the time that you have, take advantage of this time machine, stay positive, stay hopeful for the future, stay safe, stay healthy, and understand that this all will pass. And Nosara will be back to normal at some point. And for whoever's here right now, enjoy it. And because just as quick as this came, it may not be the same 3 months or 6 months or 12 months from now, and you may want another time machine to go back in time to right now. So take advantage of it, and everybody stay safe and positive, and take care of yourselves.
And get a bike. That was one of your big suggestions. Get a bike.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a shameless self-promotion, but yeah, I mean, the bikes are a great way to stay mentally stable. Besides focusing on your actual physical health, people really need to focus on their mental health right now, and exercise and some time out riding a bike is it works wonders for mental health. So stay healthy and stay mentally strong.
I appreciate you coming on the podcast as always. Thank you very much. And it'll be interesting to see what the next couple of weeks and the next month or so brings.
Cool, Rich. Well, it's good to see you from a distance here. And look at this, prior podcast, we're sitting right next to each other. Maybe this is the new podcast here. I kind of like it.
Maybe we'll see. I miss the studio, but at the same time, this is effective, and let's just keep rolling. So hopefully during this down period, while people don't have that much to do, it lets them listen to things like this and hear insight and ideas from leaders in
Yes,
the community. And
for sure. At some point,
hope it's making a difference.
you and I will do a real estate podcast. No, I keep saying that. This is probably like my 4th or 5th podcast here, but I don't know. Maybe 10 is a lucky number.
I stay away from real estate for many reasons, but it is time. I need to do
You're
it.
gonna do a real estate podcast one way or another. So
Yeah, we do need to do one. That is true. It is an important part of the community, and you've been calling me out on that. So I'll step up. We'll deal with some more coronavirus stuff, and then real estate later.
cool, man. Oh, it's been good chatting with you, Rich. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Thanks for coming on. Peace out.